Disney and Pixar's Elio officially arrived in theaters this weekend, directed by Adrian Molina, Madeline Sherifin, and Domi Shi. This film stars Yonas Kibreab, as well as Zoe Saldana and Remy Edgerly. Elio is about a young space fanatic, by of course the name Elio, who ends up in space on a fun, wacky, and fantastic misadventure that takes him to discover aliens and puts him at the center of a intergalactic plot where he discovers who he truly is. So we're going to take a look at this movie and help you decide if this is the right one to watch as a Christian. Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. I'm your host Tim, and we exist to help Christians live in the world, not of the world, by utilizing our convictions in the movies and shows we watch. Elio is rated PG for some action, peril, and some thematic elements, so we're going to dive into any convictions you may have that may prevent you from watching this movie, any theological themes present, and wrap it up with my own personal thoughts on the film. Without further ado, let's dive into the Christian Conviction Meter. In case you're brand new here, the Christian Conviction Meter is a series of 5 convictions that may distract or hinder your relationship with Jesus. Ultimately, this is a guide, tool, and resource to help you find good movies to watch based on the convictions God has given you. Without further ado, let's dive on in. And kicking things off here with some violence and gore. Obviously, this is an animated movie, so everything is not going to be to a crazy extreme, and it is rated PG, so it's meant for a more family-friendly audience. There is some explosions here contained within the film. There's a bit of action, there's some blaster fire, some of those things that are contained within this movie. Along with that, there also is this whole idea that an alien race puts on a suit of armor that is loaded with all of these sorts of weapons. These are things that are contained within this movie. We're going to give this category a 1 out of 5. Our next 3 categories is lust, substances, and profanity. All of these are not contained within this movie. There's nothing to worry about for lust, no substance abuse, or no profanity contained within this movie. All of these are going to be a 0 out of 5. And last but certainly not least is intense/horror scenes. This is not a horror movie, which means you don't need to worry about any horror images contained within the film. Again, it is PG, it's meant for a more general audience. That being said though, there is a bit of intensity just dealing with the kind of villain of the story, and some of it may appear kind of creepy. Really just the aliens in general can look weird or creepy, especially for younger viewers. There are also some intense moments of trying to escape, or just some intense moments throughout the film of them just trying to ultimately do what they have to do to either save a friend or just to not deal with the consequences of their actions. But all these things are a part of this movie. Because of these things, we're going to give this category a 1 out of 5 as well. So our grand total on the conviction meter is going to be a 2 out of 25. This usually means that a more general audience can participate in watching this movie. That being said though, there are a few things to kind of consider here. Obviously with this movie, if any of these things that we did talk about are compromising your convictions in any way, shape, or form, or make you feel uncomfortable, make sure to follow your convictions as they are God-given. If that means don't watch the movie, don't watch the movie. Ultimately, this is to help you form your convictions, help you decide whether or not the movies we talk about are the right fit for you to watch, either you or your loved ones. And this leads us beautifully into our next topic, which of course is theological themes present in Elio. And there really isn't anything here. There's nothing explicitly about Christianity, the Bible, the church, Jesus himself. None of that is contained within this movie. It does talk a lot about the idea of, are there aliens out there, and some of those things, and that's been a topic of conversation pretty much since the space race began. Even before that, I'm sure there were conversations on it, but it really started to ramp up when we first started sending people and things and animals to space. And while the Bible is not clear on an answer of whether or not this is true, we do know that God created each of us uniquely and individually. It describes that we are fit and woven together in our mother's womb, that we are each created by God himself. That necessarily doesn't tie to the movie, just want to encourage you in that you are created by God for a purpose, and you are created by him uniquely and wonderfully. But again, there is nothing explicitly about Jesus, Christianity, the Bible contained within Elio. So with that wrapped up, let's move on to our review. What are my thoughts on Elio? And if you know anything about kind of the history of this film, you know that they've gone through a bit of some reanimating, restructuring the story. I wouldn't call it necessarily reshooting because it's an animated movie, but essentially that sort of process they went through with this movie. That's why there are 3 directors on this project, because 2 of them were brought in, specifically Madeline and Domi. Both of them were brought in to kind of help restructure the film, because the original trailer is much different than the movie we ended up getting and what we see in theaters. And for the most part, the changes here are pretty good. Instead of it just being fully centered around Elio and his journey through the intergalactic world of space, it is very much a friendship movie. And I think that is really where Pixar shines, is in developing these friendships. And the friendship between Elio and Glorden, the alien he encounters in the film, is pretty good. It's enjoyable, has a few funny moments within it, and overall is a really solid friendship, which is nice. I think they added that into the story with these kind of restructures. I think it lended itself nicely for this film. What also lended itself nicely here is the animation. They do a really good job here at crafting a very different type of world. With alien movies over the last however long movies have been made, aliens have come in all shapes and sizes, and this one still manages to give us some unique aliens and unique creatures, and that is pretty cool. It uses more different colors, like some purples, some pinks, some blues, stuff you usually don't see with space. I don't know. It was nice, refreshing, and the animation looks good. It does have, of course, the similar style that we've seen with a few other Pixar projects as of late. Kind of the bow turning red, Luca, even a little bit of Soul kind of mixed in there. That sort of animation style we've seen as of late post-COVID. And it's pretty good here. I think it lends itself very well to this story. I do still miss the kind of realistic animation that we saw with a lot of the earlier stuff. So like Incredibles, Monsters Inc., Toy Story, Finding Nemo, some of those. I do miss that animation style, but the ones that they tried here, I like that they're trying new things. I think it's always good to try and to just change it up a little bit, you know? Disney did that with their animation. DreamWorks did that with theirs. And it's nice to see Pixar kind of diving and trying new things. It's nice. And the story overall is pretty decent here as well. It's very straightforward, easy to follow, which is nice. And it does have, like I mentioned, a bit of humor. And it does also have a bit of emotional moments, particularly because of the fact that it deals with the themes of loss and trying to figure out where you belong. Like, belonging and loss are the kind of bigger themes of this film. And I think it handles it, for the most part, pretty nicely. And overall, is a pretty simple, easy story. However, this film really lacks character depth. If you remember any sort of Pixar movie, one of the things that they have done very, very well is giving their characters a sense of depth that is just fantastic throughout their entire catalog. One example that sticks out in my mind is Marlin, right? Obviously, you see what happens with Marlin in the beginning of Finding Nemo, right? You see the tragedy that he deals with and why he's overprotective of Nemo because of these things. But you also see the depth of his character, of how much he truly cares for Nemo. And it's cool to see that. This film doesn't have that kind of moment, whether it's by a parent character or by Glorden or Elio. It's missing the sense of depth that we've come to see with a lot of different Pixar movies. And it's a shame, because I think this film has a lot of potential, and it really tried its best to be a great Pixar film. I think that's where it was shooting for. It was shooting for a Finding Nemo, a Toy Story, Monsters Inc., an Incredibles, a Ratatouille type of status. And ultimately, I don't think it fully nails it because of the lack of depth we see with some of these characters, and particularly, with some of these relationships that are a part of this movie. If Elio and Gordon's friendship is a big part of this movie, don't just do a character montage and one little scene of them becoming friends. Like, have them go through maybe a little bit of a challenge together, right? It's one thing that Toy Story did very, very well back in 1995, is the fact that they went through a challenge. Buzz and Woody, they were hated rivals, they hated each other. But over the course of the movie, you see their friendship develop. You see them go through challenges, go through different things. And there are challenges and situations that this movie does present itself with, but there really isn't a challenge that they face together. And if the friendship is the biggest aspect of the film, that is what is missing. If the friendship is the biggest part, it needs to have depth. And it felt like they had easy answers for everything. There was no challenges, no hurdles to climb, no character arc for these characters. And I mean, to an extent, there's a character journey that Elio goes through. It's missing the Pixar depth touch, and that kind of stinks. All that being said, I do think it's pretty decent. Is it Pixar's best? No, it is not Pixar's best. Is it their worst? Also, no. I feel like this era of Pixar coming out of COVID has kind of been like the pretty decent catalog for them. There's nothing that has really blown me away, and there's nothing that's really made me feel awful. There has been a few movies that I'm not a big fan of just because of personal reasons. It's a pretty decent time, you know, other than the character depthness that I wish was a bigger part of the film. I wish there was more depth to these characters. It's still pretty fun. It's still an enjoyable movie. There's still some laughs. There's still some emotional moments. And overall, it's still a pretty enjoyable Pixar film. Is this one I'm going to revisit, you know, every year or every 3 years? Probably not, but it still is a pretty good space adventure. So that being said, overall, I'm going to give it a 7.1 out of 10. That is just my personal thoughts on the film. I do think it has a lot of potential. It just fell flat. And man, I mean, again, I think this film had a lot of potential. It just didn't live up to it. So it's a 2 out of 25 on the conviction meter. It's a 7.1 out of 10 in our review. Those are my thoughts, so let me know yours down in the comments below. Let's chat all things about Elio in the comments. And while you're down there, consider hitting that like and subscribing for us, joining our community here on YouTube, because most of you guys aren't subscribed, so feel free to do so down in below in this page thing here, whatever we're calling it. I'm rambling, but thank you so much for taking time out of your day to spend time with us here. We truly appreciate it. It means the absolute world to us. But before you go, there's a few video recommendations here that YouTube is suggesting to you personally. How cool is that? One of which, though, that we've recommended is another Alien movie we have reviewed, which is, of course, the 2002, the original Lilo and Stitch. So feel free to join us over there, and we'll see you all in the next one.